Hello and welcome to the very first edition of the Game of Life in 2026. Happy New Year to you, and I'm so glad to have you once again, and it's yet another year to have a real big dive into the stories of our athletes that matter, but also the stories of heroes and everyday people. And in studio of the Game of Life today, I have a gentleman. He didn't play football. Well, he did, but not at that level. Yet, you can't talk about Ugandan football without this man's name. He is named after his father, just added a junior. Now, when we go to academics, he's gone all the way, and you've heard of something called PhD. This is a man who knows how to grind results out of a team when there are barely resources available. With me in studio of the Game of Life, he's currently unemployed, but well, he's so resourceful that perhaps he won't stay on the streets that long. Asaph Mwebaze Jr., my friend, welcome to the Game of Life.
Yeah, thank you for hosting me, Andrew. I am privileged and honored to actually be here. I have watched, I think, previous episodes, and I just can't get over watching the stories that you've been telling us and the whole world. So I am so privileged to be here. But
that's the second one. We have a primary one.
A primary
no Gambachi.
And you say no.
Shaniwe. Is that what they say? Shaniwe.
No, it's what you want to say. You know, the good thing about the local language is that you can approach them any way you want.
Yeah.
They have different ways of approaching. It's not like the English language where you have to go one direction. So the Unyanko is like Shaniwe, Oriota, Nogambachi, and DJ, you know, all that stuff.
Glad to have you.
Nice to be here.
You are wearing the yellow that I like.
Okay.
This one is good.
This one, yeah, of course, you see, this is, of course, when you talk about football, everybody has the kind of inclination, and KCCA and me are inseparable. They're inseparable from birth, by the way, from birth, because the first time I knew anything about football, it was this football club.
Thank you. And talking football, like I told our viewers in the introduction, Asaph Mwebaze Jr. didn't play football. You played under 17?
Yes,
under 17?
1990, under 17.
National team?
Yes, we were collected from all over the country, and we met in Lugogo. That time, Lugogo was the center, I think, of football excellence in Uganda.
Okay. So, you didn't play in the league and all, but Asaph Mwebaze that you see here has coached Maroons. Actually, Maroons and Asaph are almost identical. 12 years.
Yeah.
He's coached Bright Stars, Ondu Paraka, Nyamitiobora, Mbale Heroes recently, and then
Mawogola in the
Masaza Cup as well.
Yes.
And sometimes you used to stay at KCCA a lot. I thought you were a coach there.
Yeah, at KCCA, KCCA is a second home to me because, frankly speaking, I grew up practically on that football field because my uncle managed the club. My father was a very staunch. So every evening I was always there.
And that's actually, that brings me exactly to where I want us to go. You didn't play football. It's tough for someone who didn't play the game to actually come and be accepted by the real footballers who are playing the game. But you come and then coach, because I could drop some names of the players that you've coached. You did also coach Saddam Juma.
Yeah, I'm the one that introduced him to football.
There you go. Saddam Juma, Dennis Rukundo. I remember my friend Abege.
Jojo P. Abege.
Yes,
I coached the Uganda player of the at one time, Muzamir
Mutiaba as well.
Yes.
So a good number of players.
Yeah, a very good number.
But you didn't play football. So how did you end up? Is it frustration that because you didn't play, you decided, let me coach them? How did you get there?
The thing is this, that because I was introduced to this game, and I wanted to play the game, but of course you fall short on so many things. Of course, you're probably not good enough. You're not good enough. But now, If you're not good enough, then sometimes it is the ability to see and comprehend, because you're always on the sidelines. Actually, what made me coach football is when I went to Namasagai College. I met a coach there. Not a coach, actually, he was a school teacher who every time would be like, no, I don't think you should play this game. I think you should coach it. And I found it very, very, very annoying. How does a teacher tell me to coach a football team instead of playing the game? I thought that man was crazy. He was like, this man is crazy. How do you tell? But he had seen something about me I think, because of being KCC around my uncle team manager, I used to see the way he arranges everything. I see the way he talks to players. I see the way he organizes kids, because everything was always around. The Jackson Mayanjas actually were in our backyard, because they stayed in the boys' quarters, the Senyanges, Kadidis, all these people. He had a very big boys' quarter of about 7 rooms where KCC players always used it. So I met them. So I knew. So now I think I said gravitating towards.
What's your uncle's name?
Gideon Karioko. He actually passed away. He managed KCC, I think, in the 80s and the 90s. And he was the general secretary of Uganda Tennis Association.
Okay.
Yes.
So you stay around that place and then you never recover from football?
Yeah, no, you can't recover, because all the time the players were all around. I said going to football matches at a very early age, because by P1, because the first game I think I remember going to was KCC versus Uganda Airlines in Achivo 1981. Wow. I was in P1. So now I go to the stadium and, the shocking thing is that I knew KCC yellow. Now, airlines put on yellow. So they were at home. And, in Achivo was the stadium where everybody played. There was very few clubs had, actually, I don't think any club had a home ground. Everybody played at Nakivubo. Only the upcountry teams had grounds. So I go to Nakivubo and KCC is putting on blue. So I'm telling my dad, what is going on here? Something is wrong, a mess. Why is KCC in blue? Yeah. So I didn't understand. I thought everything yellow must be associated with KCC. So I remember that game very, very, very well.
And now, did you at the time have any hopes of playing football?
That is exactly what I wanted, because you see, as a kid, you want to play football. And you live in a world where everybody's superstar is actually at your home. Everybody is talking about Philip Omondi. Everybody is talking about Tom Luanga. Everybody is talking about Charles Katumba. But this guy is actually in my home. And I'm like, you're living your dream in reality. That is how I lived. So you actually want to play football, because you want to be like these guys, because you go to watch them and everybody is adoring them. So that's where actually I met, I think, the person I think is the greatest footballer I've seen playing. Although most people, when you talk about football and you're from KCC, everybody wants to gravitate towards Omondi. But I think for me, the best player I've ever seen playing football was Godfrey Katerega. And he was nicknamed Superstar. I think he's the best player I've ever seen play football. I cannot imagine, the way he carried the ball, the way he crossed, the way he dribbled. I wanted to be like him. So that is where the football was taking me. I would have loved to play, really.
What happened?
One is that I think my father, having been involved in football so much, and you see in the early 80s, football was being played by mostly people who didn't go to school. And my father was so adamant that I should go to university. And I could easily have been the first university graduate in my clan.
In your clan?
Yes. Okay, others, had gone, because I remember my uncle, Pastor Stephen, he was a diploma holder teacher. I think that is the highest that had ever, like my father's family. Now, my father was so adamant that I go to university and get a university degree. So then I didn't know why, but of course, as I've grown up, that's when I realized that, wait a minute, I could actually have been the first university graduate in this
family.
Yes. Because my dad was adamant. Because I think for everything my dad did not achieve, he always wanted me to go on and achieve. And that was one of them.
Is that why your dad is called Asaph Mwebaze and you're Asaph Mwebaze Jr.?
I think so. Because there are so many names. Because my grandmother always had this joke and said that, with all the so many names that this guy could have named this guy, because everybody had, being the firstborn of my father, everybody had names. You can call him this, you can call him that. And my father was in Kampala. And those days, there were no phone calls that you can make from the village. So you had to wait for this guy to show up. So now my grandmother was saying, we need to baptize this guy. Where is this guy? Where is this guy? Where is this guy? So on the day that my father arrived, I think for the baptism, my grandmother is like, hey, the name. And my father, I think in his mind is like, the name, what I talk about is like Asaph Mwebaze. And my grandmother was very in shock, but went to church still and said, Asaph Mwebaze. So,
Junior.
No, when I got home, that's when they discovered now, which one is the Asaph? So my mom actually says, no, he's the junior. Since it's also Mwebaze, then he's definitely the junior. So actually, everybody who knows me from childhood, I'm junior. They actually don't call me Asaph. Even up to now, I'm a father, almost being a grandfather, because my daughter is 26. She turned 26 two days ago. So anytime you can, but still everybody. If you meet anybody, actually, if you call me junior, I know you know me so well from so far. If somebody calls you junior, you're like, hey, you know me that well. Yeah.
Okay. And all this is happening in Kampala? Is this where you were born, in Kampala?
No, actually, I was not born in Kampala. I was born in Uganda, but...
Uganda, that's Western Uganda.
Yes, formerly in Barara district. We're Barara district, but now we are Uganda district. Close, I think, to Fort Portal, where you come from, because Bwera is on the other side. So actually, it's between us and you. Uganda, Kamwenje, then here in Fort Portal. Yeah. So that's where I was born, but spent all my life in Kampala. I was born in Uganda, but I was in Kampala. I was from nursery school. I've been around. Yeah, because my mother actually is from around.
From around.
Yes.
So it's Uganda and the Kampala Central. So
yeah.
Okay. That means there's a little bit of instability in terms of the language at home. Which one do you use?
No, the first language I spoke, I think, was Luganda. Okay. Because my mother is a Muganda.
Okay.
So I spoke Luganda. Now, my father speaks Lunyankole. Now, my father adamantly speaks Lunyankole, even if he can speak Luganda. So now, me and my brother and sister created a language that is between the two.
A hybrid.
Yes. So now, when we go to visit our relatives that are Baganda, when they listen to us, they're like, Banabana Bogira Vichi. Then when we go to Ankole, we also speak Runyankole that is very disturbing, must be like. So when you are in Buganda, they say, Banabana Banyankole. Now when you are in Ankole, they say, Banabana Baganda. You know, like, so we are in between. Yes.
Okay. We will get away from that. I want us to follow a trail of your coaching. And I'm interested to know, like, someone who didn't play the game, you wake up and you're like, I want to become a coach. And then you take it serious. Like, where is that coming from?
Actually, fun enough, I didn't want to become a coach. When I was younger, I actually wanted to be a referee.
That's even also strange.
Yes. No, this I tell this story so many times to people and they find it. There was a referee called Kapalaga when I was growing up. And every time KCCA played, he gave a penalty against us. And I was so incensed, like every time there were fights, actually, every time there were fights between KCCA and Express, it was Kapalaga who was the referee. So now, my mind was like, if I become a referee, I will give KCCA penalties. You know, like, in your mind, you're thinking, if this guy is giving penalties against us,
I mean, as long as you have the whistle.
If I have the whistle, if I got it, I would also make sure that KCCA gets what? A penalty. So actually, it's the thing that I always wanted. And not because that I was so... Those are the things that were driving me. So like when you're in school and the teachers are caning and you're like... You
want to be a teacher?
One day, if I become a teacher and I get that cane, they will see me. So that's what I say. Like, if I get that whistle, these guys will see me. Yeah, but of course, as you grow up, things change. You are inclined. Okay, I wanted to play the game. For sure, I wanted to play the game. But the turning point, I think, is when I went to Namasage College. And of course, it was not a football playing school, but we played football. But when I got there, the teacher found out that I understood the game more than I could play it. Like, I really understood it. Like, for example, how to organize players on the field of play. He would see it. Then like, So he always wanted me to do that. And I was not very happy about it because until the time when one time I think he was, we're in examination period, but we had a game to play against, not Namasage, Kamuli Boys. And Namasage was going to play Kamuli Boys, but the examination was going on. So he told me that, you know what, you go with this team and you play football. Now, why I loved it is that for the first time I had the power to select, you are not going, you are... the power of disappointment. So there was Nobat Kazu. I don't know if you know him. Nobat Kazu. Yes, he was in Namasagare with me. Very man, but he was a very good footballer. Yeah. Very good footballer.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was. I think the captain of the team at one time. But he was a very small boy, but very very good footballer.
Still small.
Still small. So those are the guys. So I was there, and that's how I learned to organize. Now when I left. When I left the school, so I started thinking, okay, if I cannot really play, because you go to university and time goes, the time goes, you can't play anymore. So now I went into like thinking, yes, I can actually manage this game. But people are telling me, no, you see, if you haven't played this game, you can't coach it. So that's actually, somebody said that to me, and it is the one thing that have spurred me into thinking, let me go and show these guys that I can actually do the thing and do it very well. So it always was in the back of my mind because somebody said it to me and it didn't, because first of all, remember when somebody told me coach the game, I was very upset. Now somebody is telling me I can't do it.
Because you didn't play.
Because I didn't play. Yeah. And I remember the first interview I ever did as a coach actually had just won the Kampala Zonal Mini League.
As a coach?
Yes, I won let's call it the Super Mini League, which would promote you to the Premier League. And I just won it, and guess what? Nobody knew me. Nobody. So the journalist came in front of me, and the first thing he asked me, which team did you play for? So I asked him, I have just won a trophy, and the thing you asked me, I was like, no, I am a coach. Ask me about, I've just won the trophy. I have a medal on my what. So those are the things that really, really spurred me into saying, you know what, let me go and be the very best coach that I can ever be. Yeah.
And then immediately because if you promote a team, then you need the badges.
No, that time, funny enough, in 2007, the badges were not a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. If you just did the job as a coach and you get known,
if people knew you
as a coach, somehow you'd be, and that is how I was a coach, because I had attended just a few courses. There was one in Kitante by those people of Kamocha, is it Christian community? They brought coaches from England, Taco Africa. I think that is the first coaching course I ever did. Okay, from then on, I started being recognized as a coach. So now, whenever there was coaching courses at Fufa, Buganda, then you'd be invited. You know those coaching courses that would take 3 days. You know that. And
at that time, are you now convinced that you want to be a coach?
Yeah, I'm very convinced because you see, the thing is this, that I had done things that most people hadn't done. Because you see, I have won every football trophy apart from the Premier League. So all the leagues in Uganda, I have won them. But I've won the second tier, the big league 3 times.
Oh, the big league, yes.
I've won it 3 times.
Yeah.
I've won the regional league. I've won the first division. I've won the second division.
Most of them with Maroons.
Yeah, all of them with Maroons.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you get now into coaching, and then you are known. You begin upgrading your badges. How do you end up at Maroons?
At Maroons, I went there. Yeah. There's a certain officer called Mr. Andia. As I'm coaching Bugolobi, because Bugolobi
was in the regional?
No, we're in first division. Maroons was in first division, by the way. By the time I went there, the first division is, I think, right now like the fifth year. It might be like the 5th tier. So okay. Maroons had fallen that far. So now I'm in Bugolobi, and this man comes to me and walks to me and tells me, but you know what you're doing with that small team, if you came to us, we can give you a bigger platform and you can help us. So I was asking, which team is this? I was like, oh, Maroons from New Zealand, because we had been with them in the first division year in, year out. So I'm like, okay, let me come. But you remember, I'm going to a football club with a very big history, because this was a team in first division, but they had won the 2 championships that were the first 2 championships in Uganda. So they are a very historical team. Yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, where do I begin? But the guy tells me, okay, what you do on Monday, you come. So, and you remember, when you go to Maroons is a team that had seasoned players, not the ones that I had in Bugolobi, where you just pick a boy from the flats and you go and play football. Now, these are guys who were brought to play football, but they had suffered without promotions for a very long time, because they had been relegated in 1987. And believe me, in 87, I was in P7. Now, they're asking me to do something for them, to get them into the league 19 years later. Imagine, when they were relegated, 87, I was in P7, but they suffered all those 19 years. And this man is asking me, can you come? So I'm like, okay, but I'm thinking this is a step too far. They're asking me to do something that is almost beyond my reach. How do you expect me to take you to the Premier League, yet you have tried to do it with every coach available? By the way, every coach available had been at Maroons, including, I think Mike Mutebi was there before me, Chibuka was there, and Tege was there, Mbale Heroes was there. All of them had been at Maroons. So, and you can imagine all the names I'm mentioning, these are seasoned names. I mean, when you mention those names, you know who they are. Yeah. Now, they're introducing a coach, Asaph, who, actually everybody was asking Asaph who, like the way, the famously, when they said Wenger who, they were asking Asaph who. They're like, this guy who has been here. I remember the first time I went to Maroons, the players actually refused to train. Why? Uh-huh. Because they are seeing this guy who has been just around Bugolobi. They're introducing a coach who hasn't played football, because they're like, this guy hasn't played football. What is he telling us? Because they didn't. I remember they even coached themselves on the side. I was with just 4 players here, and the rest of them were on the side. So that is how difficult it was for me to get into the coaching.
Wow. And then you go on to spend 12 years with them.
Yeah. Because of course I start working, and of course I'm very thorough. When I decide to do something, usually I want to win. And that is maybe one thing that has made me a coach that I am. So when I go to them, I'm like, okay, I want to win. So what do? I was like, okay, since these guys don't want to play football, because you see, I'm here, they say they want to play. So let them go. So it was a very big, like the sports officer was like, what did you say? Like, let them go. So it's like, what are you going to do if they go? Like, we'll get other players who will play. So the guy's like, but you see, these guys. So I asked the sports officer, and I asked him.
That's at prison.
At prisons, yeah. I asked him, you have had these players for this time. How far have you gone? So he looked at me. He's like, what are you trying to say? It's like, you have not qualified. So even if we didn't qualify next season, it will still be the same. But the difference will be that you have at least younger players that you can use for the next maybe 7 years. Because when I went to prisons, actually, I thought maybe we would qualify for the Premier League maybe in 3 years' time. That was what I was thinking, because I brought in players who are as far as S1. Because Saddam Juma was an S1 student in progressive here in Kitintale when I introduced him to football. And those were the players that actually brought Maroons to the Uganda Premier League in 2007.
Wow. Yeah. And then you win 3 promotional titles?
Yeah, okay. The first promotion title was in 2007. Yeah. Actually, I spent only 1 year and got them promoted. Now, that is why when you say Maroons and me are synonymous. Because you see, after 20 years, I brought them to the league in the very first attempt that I was there. I came in 2006. In 2007, they were actually in the Uganda Premier League. Yeah. And
then you stayed...
I stayed there up to 2018.
You played some of the best football, I think, between 2011 to... Between 2010 and 2013?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, that time when I had Mutebi Zamiru, Georgia Pio, Bege, yes. You know, that moment, Alex Tulilava.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Asaph, do the people at Maroons understand or appreciate heritage? Do they know what you did for them? Are you even considered a legend there?
Yeah, you see, the thing is this, that I think in all societies in the world, when you are still at when you're still at a certain place,
Yes.
people don't actually know what you've done for them. I think that was my point of departure with them. You know, like you're there and you're thinking in your mind, you're like, I have done something that think about it. When a team like Maroons disappears for 20 years from the league, and you just 9 months come to a club and bring them to where they've been trying to be. And after some time, somebody comes and tells you, no, this coach is not good enough. And you're like, what did you mean? Okay, it happened to me so many times. Of course, those were challenges with the club. And of course, with my outspoken kind of personality, I'm quite outspoken. Many people would have challenges with me. And it's now that maybe I've grown up a bit and I'm like, okay, I think they really had a challenge with me. At that time, maybe I did not appreciate it, but I actually now do. As you grow older, you start to mellow a bit, and you're like, okay, because they would come to me and like, because for the first time, when I promoted them the very first time, what do? They go and say, no, I think this guy is young. We need a more experienced coach. So they actually bring Mike Mutebi, which was, I think, a bonus to me. Okay, then probably I was thinking, okay, wait a minute. I've just promoted these guys. Why are they thinking what? Okay, for them, they didn't think. I don't think they were thinking what I'm thinking right now. Because when they brought Mike Mutebi, he became a mentor to me. Like, I actually was honing my skill to be like him. Because previously, I used to go and sneak into his training sessions when he was at Simba. And Simba used to train at Bugolobi. So you'd go and sneak in and, try to see what he's doing so that you go and do it at your own club. So one time, I remember they were stopping me from entering the training ground, and I'm there, and there's a scarf of water. So Mike he doesn't know me by that time. He looks up and is like, what's the problem? That, hey, this guy is here, he wants to sneak in the training. Then he's like, what is it? Then he's like, I told him, I want to see how you coach. So he asked me, are you a coach? Then I was like, I train Bugolobi. He's like, you let him in. So I go in and he asked me that, but now you've come. So how are you going to know what? That you haven't come with a book. So I'm like, a book? He's like, you have come to learn, but you don't have a book. So the next day, actually, from there, if you've seen me, I've always had a book from there on. So it was a chance that when they brought him to Maroons, at first I was saying, wait a minute, where are these guys trying to place me? I was having a problem with it. But from there on, I don't think there's any coaching course in Uganda that has taught me football. I can tell you, yes. What I know, what I do, the only thing that I've learned from coaching coaches is to be certified. That is the only thing that I got from coaching courses, to be certified. But for everything that I do, whether in pre-season, whether everything that I write, I can show you where I got it from. Because Coach Mike writes down everything and he gives you. So I have his notes from 2007-8. And they are still helping me today. Because I look at it and I was like, oh, okay, this is how it does it. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, they replaced me.
So as you sit here today, as a coach, it all goes down and back to Mike Mutebi.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like I've told you, the only thing that I've gotten from coaching courses is certification. To certify me that this guy is a coach. But the things that I know, that if you woke me up and ask me about anything, because you see, I used to go for coaching courses and they're teaching something and I'm like, I know how to do this. Like you actually know how to do this because you have notes about something they're teaching you, thinking maybe it's the first time you're saying it, but I had already seen it before and somebody had it on a piece of paper. And so everything about me in coaching is definitely Mike. Yeah.
And then, of course, somehow you leave Maroons. You also do coach on Paraka, you coach Nyamitiobora, you coach Mbale Heroes. But the ending always is like in your trade, abrupt. But apart from Maroons, you didn't last at the other clubs. What always brought that abrupt ending?
No, the abrupt ending. No, actually, before we even go to that question, you asked me about Maroons. Yes, they actually endeared to me after I have gone. When I was there, they actually didn't seem to notice probably I was writing their history. Like I was actually writing their history. I did. It's only when I left. Now that you go there to watch a football game, everybody is like, oh, that's Coach Asaph. Oh, even all the kids, everybody's like, because whoever is there, every minute or two, when they talk about Maroons, everybody talks about Maroons. And the next word usually is Asaph. So some people don't know you, but they're like, who is this guy called Asaph? So when I go there, everybody's waving at me. Now that's why I think that's when they realized that maybe there was some work that was done there. Now to what you've just asked me. Maroons is that I introduced a system that made them produce players because they actually, at the moment, they didn't have the kind of resources that have to buy the players to bring them in. And that's what I'd seen. Now, in most of these clubs, now that I went to, are result-oriented. They want to win tomorrow. And that sometimes is very difficult because if you want to win tomorrow, that means your investment has to be extremely very high because then I have to tell you, go and bring me the other player. He's in that club. Go and bring me at whatever cost they ask you. Now, when you go to some of these clubs, the impatience to want to win tomorrow and then vis-a-vis what their investment is. Because most of these clubs, but others clubs, most of them, I think the departure points are always Asaph is the problem. Why? Because I'm saying no to some things. For me, there are some ethical values that I uphold myself to. And I'm like, no, that one I will not do. Because there are some clubs, they want to win, like Onduparaka. They wanted to win. Actually, that's one of my biggest regrets in football, was that football club. Because I thought when I phoned them that we were going to make history with them because they're very passionate fans. They loved the game. And somehow I had assembled a team that I thought this team can actually go on and win the league. The league, yes. Because by the time I left the club, they were actually in second spot. But of course, you have misunderstandings, like the misunderstandings of me being me. And I cannot allow you to do some things because I'll tell you that in Ugandan football, there's this element where people think that the coach is the most stupid person and yet they're hiring the guy. But they think that the coach is the most stupid person and they know more than you do. So you ask them then, why did you hire me? Since you can do it, why don't you just do this job? Of course, when you say such a thing, it will rub somebody the wrong way. Like, can you believe what the coach told me? But he's not telling people that actually he was actually giving you the lineup for the game. And you asked him that, okay, fine, if you want me to line up these guys like this, why don't you join me in the coaching?
And that happens all the time.
Yes.
In our football.
In our football.
Including, does it happen at the national team?
I am not sure because at the national team I have, I cannot vouch for that. But in most of these clubs, you'll find that there will be somebody or a group of people who want to have their authority on the team, on the lineup. Yeah. And that is different from what you've coached. For example, they're telling you to put a player who you haven't seen. For example, in training for 7 days, you saw him on the last training, but they want this player to be fielded. And you say no. Now, unfortunately, when you say no, whenever the result goes against you and they will come back and say, you see, we told you, if the other guy was on, because they have it's not a fact that if that player had played, maybe it would change. But for me, I think if you play such a player, then you're killing the whole team synergy. The player comes once for training session, you have had these guys for 7 days and, Yeah.
So that was the point of departure to Onduparaka.
Yeah, that was the point of departure to Onduparaka. But most importantly is that the players, even the Onduparaka players, were not used to the professional kind of football that I was trying to introduce them to. One, for example, you found that they always told you they wanted to beat up on KCCA and Villa. That was one of their reasons to leave. I brought them to Mbale. I think we beat Villa 1-0 in Mbale, and I was so happy. But we went home and lost to KCC, and they were saying, you see now, this coach cannot beat KCC, and you know, so you're like, okay. So I told them that, you see, to win a league, you don't have to beat KCC.
Yeah.
You can lose KCC and beat up on everybody. You understand? But now the players that I had at that particular time, most of them were not used to training. Actually, that's the biggest problem with Ugandan footballers. Now, when I told them that if you want to beat KCC, then we have to replicate what KCC does. Why? Because I was a coach at Maroons, but guess what? I was a fan of this football club. And Mike Mutebi always allowed me even to attend KCC's training sessions, even when I was a coach at Maroons. Because I remember KCC fans saying, that guy should not attend our coaching,
sessions.
Because he's going to come and beat us, because Maroons used to give them a bloody time.
Yeah.
So now, but Mike, for him, was not bothered. He was like, and every time they had a game, let's say, internationally, Maroons was a team that they were playing with friendly matches and all that stuff. So I told the Nduparaka people, you want to play like KCC? Let us behave like KCC.
Yeah.
I told them, now, we are coming to train at 8 in the morning, and you're going to leave this place at 6 in the evening. They were like, no. Other players, actually, I remember one player told me that, you know, coach, the problem is that for you don't understand that some of us are going to look for. Actually, he told me that they don't have wives, so they have to look for wives. So I told the player, you know what? I've given you 3 weeks. Go
and look for wives.
Yes. So when you do, then you can come back. And he didn't think I was serious.
Hey.
So when he comes to the stadium, the next day they told him, no. Actually, they told us, you're not training today, so you don't enter. Because we had a gate at Nduparaka to enter the. So they're like, no, you're not supposed to enter. And the guy was like, are you serious? Like, yes. I told him, you said you wanted to look for what? A wife. So go and look for her. I've given you your 3 weeks. I'm sure in 3 weeks. Because why do you go in the afternoons only? Go from morning to evening. Probably you can. So you can imagine the kind of scenarios that we have in football.
Yeah.
So that was the problem at Nduparaka, because the professionalism, the players were not willing to be professional, to compete with what they wanted to compete with. Yeah. But you go to other places, and of course, every club has its own difficulties. I've been leaving these clubs because actually one person said one thing. Okay, it was Mujibu Kasule. I was watching a certain interview he did, and he actually said something that I had not thought about and it was true. He said the problem that Asaph has is that, you see, that Ugandan football has not yet reached a level to accommodate people like him. And Asaph has failed to understand it. Why? Because I think that, okay, I'm a professional, an accountant and all the stuff. So I believe that people should behave in a certain way, because you see, Ugandan football, for them, they believe they can do anything that they want. They can behave in any kind of way. So usually I ask the players that, you see, a person, an average Ugandan, earns maybe 250,000 shillings a month, and they work from 7 to 7. You want to earn more than them, and you want to work for
a few hours.
A few hours.
Yeah.
Yes. And yet you are supposed to entertain this same guy who works from 7 to 7, who is paid less than you, but going to bring their same money that they're earning little to come and pay to watch you, who is not taking the work seriously, because you're not taking the work seriously. This person wants you to entertain them, bring their small meager money to watch you, and you're not ready to entertain them because you're not fit enough to play. You can't run, like, for example, the fans want the right back running from the back to the front. You can't do it for 90 minutes. So why don't you train to be the person that what? Because famously, I told the boys at Nduparaka, and they still laugh about it. I was like, you imagine you go to watch your favorite artist, let's say Chameleon, and Chameleon forgets the lines to his song.
Whoa.
What would you do? They laugh. Like, I would throw the chairs. You know what?
Then
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So imagine you go to a football ground and you are the right back. And these people know football now. They compare you to all the right backs around the world. And you cannot deliver a cross, and neither can you run the line. What do you think they want to do to you? So why do you think they should treat you differently? For you, if you imagine your favorite musician forgets his lines in a song. So that was the analogy there.
Anyway, and I will just go through the other clubs, but now Mbale Heroes. Mbale Heroes, you helped promote them.
Yeah.
Stepped away momentarily. They brought you back, and then somehow, without notice, the two of you parted. And the last I had is a year gone. They still owe you.
Yeah.
About 11 point something million.
Yes.
And FUFA demanded they pay you. They ordered they pay you. This is April. They gave them 45 days to pay you.
They didn't pay.
We are now in January 2026.
They gave them an additional 30 days, which
in December.
In the beginning of December, which elapsed in January. They still haven't paid.
So what's the way forward?
The thing is this, that one thing that we do, and I've learned it from other people, is that you test the waters. Sometimes it's nice to test the waters, to test the law. You see, what we have done is tested the law of football in Uganda. Yeah, because you see, the case that I have can actually be listened to in
the real court.
The real court, because it's about employment and contracts.
Yeah.
But we said, okay, let us test the
football laws.
Football laws first, because you don't want to go to court and then somebody says, you see, these people have brought footballing matters to court. But actually, this is not another footballing matter. This is something else. But we tested the law, and yes, the good thing is that FUFA has sat, given them the days. They faulted on the first days, and then they famously said that actually in the letters they wrote that, you see, they had changed that the leadership of the club had thrown the club, so the fans had taken it over, and somebody on the fans signed. So FUFA said, okay, it is okay. We'll give you an extra 30 days. The 30 days have now elapsed. So we wrote to the federation again until the 30 days have elapsed. So we are waiting because the federation had said they would stop them from signing players. The new players. That is one of the things, the sanctions that they're going to put on them. But we wrote to them asking them, actually, you can do more than that. Stop them from playing.
Aren't you giving them a waiver for January? January hits everyone.
No, there's no. You see, there's no waiver, because now, how do you give a waiver when you've had my money for 2 years? I can't give you a waiver. There's no more waiver. There's no more waiver. So we are waiting for the federation to communicate after the failure, the second time, the failure so many times. So we want to see what the federation does. Then, but after that, for sure, there's the opportunity to pursue them in a legal court, because you see, the thing that we do, and I've told many people that you do it for the good of this sport. You see, right now, some people will look at me and say, but you see, this guy is a problem, what. But the thing is this, there are so many coaches, so many players that are taken advantage of in the realm of this football. And you see, the problem now in Uganda that we have is that when somebody demands for their due, then everybody says, this guy is very indisciplined. This guy, because our societies are used to very meek people. People who are meek are seen in society as very disciplined.
Yeah. And
sometimes meekness doesn't actually make you disciplined. Yeah? It doesn't. Sometimes meek people are very indisciplined because they actually exhibited very wrong things. For example, somebody has your money, but you're not supposed to ask for it, because if you ask for it, then everybody say, this guy is indisciplined. You see, he's talking about it in public. But if you're supposed to pay me in private, why do you wait for me to demand for you? Why don't you pay me in private?
And now, since then, you have been unemployed in terms of top flight football.
Yeah.
Or what's the plan?
No, since I left Mbale, I've not been in football, because I left Mbale last year in actually it was January. It was January last year when I left them. Then I momentarily went to the Massa's. I was in Maogola for the period of time. Then I think that's the last time I was in competitive football was last year in January.
And Asaph, you've been around football all your life. You lose your job at Mbale Heroes. Of course, they haven't paid you. You have a family. You still have to continue living. But then also you are away from something you love. That must be taking toll on your well-being, isn't it?
Of course it does. It does take a toll on your well-being. And I have written to the federation about this. in so many, because I wrote a letter to them and I was telling them that this is surely goes far away from football. Because you see, if somebody withholds or refuses to pay you, it takes a toll on your life. Because one, I live in Kampala. My family is in Kampala. So I go to Mbale and spend all that time in Mbale.
It's more than money.
Yeah, it's just more than money because you are away from your family, but you're not even sending them the kind of support that they need, because this club you're playing for is not willing to do what? To pay you. And unfortunately, the leadership in Mbale is very strange, that they even pride themselves in not paying. You know, like they say, we haven't paid even so and so who was here 5 days, they didn't pay. So, but anyway, the thing, it takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on your life, because one, you have to look for money now to compensate for the money they have not given to you. So probably I'll come to Andrew and say, Andrew, could you please lend me, because my kid is going to school and study. So Andrew gives me the money, then I go. But remember, Andrew wants his money. So now you find that, and not only me, every coach, you find most of us will be indebted to many people, maybe to banks, maybe to people, maybe to even loan sharks. So that also brings pressure on you. Now, the family members of people like us will not understand. For example, how come you are at work every day and then you claim you have no money? Then they'll ask you a question. But if they're not paying you, what are you still doing there? Now, that is where the problem comes. You are addicted to this sport. Now, when you go into football, there's this thing, you have a connection with the players. For example, you are the reason these players are playing. You are the reason these players believe in this sport, because you've been telling them, when you work hard, you give them examples. This one did this one did that. You even bring international examples. You see this player like Cristiano Ronaldo, he was doing this, but guess what, where he is. But the thing is that you have very many examples to tell them, because you have very many players who have succeeded. Yes, there are so many who have failed, but you have so many that have succeeded. So you tell them, a player like Muzamir Mutiaba, he was in Wandege. I picked him up, and guess what? He became Uganda's player of the year. So you give them such an example. You tell them about Opio Jojo Bege from somewhere in Gulu, Coach Goma. You bring him to Kampala. He's a player, what? So you turn him into a player that I think Victoria University offered us $10,000 US. And that time it was unbelievable, because I remember my chairman was like, are these guys serious? Like, is this true? Like, which Ugandan player is worth this money? Because we got him for free. Yes. Jojo. So those are the things that make you stuck in the game, because you're giving hope to people, and you shouldn't be the one who is leaving them. So you stay. Like, you stay in a what you call a bad marriage. Like when somebody says the bad marriage and say, I'm staying here because of the kids. And sometimes it's true. Because you're like, if I, for example, if a husband leaves a wife, or a wife leaves a husband, the time you're like, but what about the kids? What is going to happen to the kids? So in football, you're stuck, because you brought these boys from wherever. You collect them, Kampala, Gulu, where you bring them in the same place. Now, if you wake up one morning and say, I have gone, you have broken down people. Their faith in humanity goes. And like this coach told us this, you don't want. So that's what sometimes keeps us in the game, and like, you know what? Let me run the course with these guys, so that these guys don't suffer the brunt of this game. So you see, you stay in this thing, you're not being paid, you are there. So your family at home is actually suffering, because you're not sending them the money, and they're asking themselves, there's no way this guy can be in this place without being paid. Who works at a job and is not being paid? Now, it's football coaches. We are we are stuck in that warp, that somebody will give his very best, even win. Because, for example, Mbale Heroes has no reason not to pay me, because Mbale Heroes and Maroons have the same kind of story. When I went to Mbale, they had been out of the league almost also 20 years, because the last time they were in the league was, I think, 2006 season. And remember, I went there in 2023.
And you were in the league?
20 a year.
That year?
The same year. I spent with them only one season, and I brought them to the league. So one would think that if you have brought them to this level, why aren't they appreciating? But that's Ugandan football for you.
What effect is it having on your family?
Of course, it's very diverse. Because you see, if you can't provide if you can't provide for your families, it's very diverse. So when you tell people about these things, of course, they don't want to take you seriously. They think maybe you're trying to maybe whine. Actually, I remember recently somebody told me, and one of the coaches, that, you see, for me, I have been to several clubs and they didn't pay me. So I was like, and so what are you trying to tell me? Like, you think that's okay for you not being paid? It's like, no, you move on. I was like, no. There has to be a time when somebody says, this is it. It has to end here. If you're not going to pay somebody, let them go. Actually, don't engage them at all. Just don't engage them at all. So, but anyway, it has a diverse effect. Because if you can't provide for your family, there's so many things will go wrong. Actually, everything will go wrong. School fees for your children. Even some utilities at home. These days, it's not like a long time ago where you pay at the end. Sometimes you had an electricity bill for 6 months and you don't pay it and you still have electricity anyway. But now, these days, it's not the same. You don't pay, you're off. Water, you don't pay, you're off. TV, you don't pay, you're off. Yeah. And if you are in a rented house, you're out of the house. Yeah. And those are the diverse effects that come with this thing. So those are the things the challenges that you will face when some things like that don't happen.
And of course, it also affects the relationships with your kids, with your wife.
Even with yourself. Because if you can't, as a man, if you cannot, for example, provide for your family, you go into depression. Because what are you going to tell in the morning? What are you going to tell? For example, if somebody says, you know what, daddy, they chased me for school fees and the child is at home. So what are you going to tell the person? And they're at home. You get it? So that is depressing you as a person because you're thinking in the morning, oh my God, my kid is at home. Then as you still think about that, there's something that's happening. Because we even have extended families, father, mother, everybody. And they're saying, the coach is, coach, your son is coaching football. Oh, we see him on TV. And that's the problem with the coach being coach. You're being interviewed on TV and everybody is seeing you and like, oh, this guy is very famous. And they think it reflects, it should be reflecting in your bank account. Unfortunately, it is not. You are very famous, but unfortunately, the finances don't rhyme with your being famous.
And Asaph, this especially for you, the players, people in sport who are famous, there's that drug you talked about. When you're in the public, you feed off it, the sport. But when all that goes, you have to go back home. And all these issues are coming together. I mean, being out of employment for 2 years, one wonders mentally, how are you handling it?
Yeah, now, like I told you, that football is like a drug, like cocaine. And addicts, because I have had contact with people who are addicted to drugs, people who are addicted to drinking and all that stuff. It's like you feel like the next hit, like, whenever you take the next hit, like a drug, maybe you use it in your veins or you sniff it or something like that, you feel good for that particular moment. Now, that's the problem with football. Like, every time you have the next game, you feel like your life is going to...
You're subbed for the next few hours.
For the next few hours, you feel like you're okay. Now, that's the problem with football, that kind of addiction. And like I was telling you, football is when you are in the game, those 90 minutes, the crowd is roaring, they're cheering you. You're actually alive until when the lights dim at the end of 90 minutes. And the lights actually dim, the stage, you're off the stage, everybody's going home. And then you notice that actually everybody has gone home and you're still in the same strands. You probably don't even have transport to leave the stadium. You get it? Why? Because everybody thinks that, no, this guy has been doing our work for us. Those guys are okay. So when you go home, you can actually fall into serious depression because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like everything dims. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. Because before we came on to the set, I was telling you about a certain Gary Speed. Gary Speed is the Welsh national team coach. He's coaching, I think, a team in the Premiership, Fulham or something like that. But
Newcastle legend.
And you're thinking, okay, if this guy has everything that he has, because I saw his house was a 2-garaged house. It had a swimming pool and all that stuff. And the guy was found in his garage dead. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking, I have been in my home. I don't even have a 2-garaged house, and I don't even have breakfast. So the depression is actually real. It can be real because you can imagine Gary Speed was depressed with all those things. Now, you can imagine the Ugandan depression.
You also told me about the German
goalkeeper.
Robert Anke.
Yeah, he was actually a national team goalkeeper.
Yeah.
On the German national team.
Yeah.
I think was playing, I don't remember the club he was playing for, but he was in the German Bundesliga. He goes in front of a running train and jumps. And then they tell you he lives, is it a wife, a daughter, and I'm sure his bank account is in millions of euros. So depression is real, especially with us Africans. Now you can have a point that, especially in the footballing fraternity, us, it is different because in Africa we don't have men being depressed is not.
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing. How can a man be depressed? Actually, everybody be like, what do you mean you're depressed? Hey, you know, like, you understand? They didn't see. How do you start even telling your friend, you know what? Because the day you go and tell your friends that, you know what, I'm depressed, the next thing you know, at the next bar, they're like, hey, that guy there was telling us about this silly thing. How can a man be depressed? You know, but it's real. And you find out that out of the 10 friends that you have, actually 7 of them are in the same boat with you, but you're all trying to pretend to make sure it works. And that is why you find many men. Actually, you see like the suicide rates in Uganda, most of them are men. It's rare will you find that a woman committed suicide, but the men actually do. And the things that we don't report them. In Uganda, such things are not reported. Why? Because we are not supposed to report that kind of thing. But the things that it's on an increase. And unfortunately, it happened to a friend of mine, more than a friend actually, because we lived in the same area, Bogolobi. And what it was actually in the news, you must have read it. One of our friends jumped off a building in town.
Yeah.
And it was shocking because I couldn't figure it out because I knew that. But after you read what he has written, what he had written after he died, you notice that actually this is something that all of us relate to. All of us relate to these things. But now, of course, some people go to extremities. But I'm sure there are so many other people who would easily... Because you see, the thing about this is... it's funny. And I was talking to some other person who is a doctor, and he told me, and I was telling him that, you know, sometimes when you go to sleep, you don't want to wake up. Then that's it. But that is a very bad sign. So like, how is it? That you actually feel safer in sleep. Now that's the worst thing. When you get to that point, you notice that life doesn't mean so much to you anymore. Because you see, life is for the living. You must be awake, going to places and that. But when you find somebody who's telling you that, I think I feel better when I sleep. Now that one becomes, it shows you one of the signs. And I know so many of our people who are like that, who find that they are more comfortable in their beds than actually being out and about. Now that becomes a problem.
Asaph, I think awareness is one of the very first and most important steps for one who has an issue. You know, like when you're aware of something, then you approach it differently. If you're not aware, it's deadly. In this time where you've been tried, have you been aware that perhaps maybe you need help? Or
the thing is this, that one, it takes a long time for you to be aware. Like say, any addict, you don't know that you're addicted or you are suffering a problem until some things begin to happen to you. You know, so surprisingly that the last time, I think when you invited us to
the mental session with
the legends,
that's
when it actually awoke me and said, wait a minute, I think this is a problem. Because I spoke to these people, like they spoke to us, but after that I went and had a private talk to this guy, and I was like, okay, how does this thing happen? He told me. So I'm like, okay. Now I began to understand that actually this is what it is. Because, you know, you don't know. You know it's happening to you. You think, actually people think that those are the challenges of life. You actually think it's challenging life, and they tell you every man must go through these kind of challenges and what. But how do you get out of them? How do you find that actually you're about to fall off the cliff? Because there's a time when you're about to fall off and you don't know it, but you're sliding over it. So when I encountered these people, that's when I noticed that actually this. And the question is this: what brought you to this? Because the guy asked me, what brought you to this? Because discover that it's actually this game. Because the game puts you under pressure, a lot of pressure. Because this, I was telling people how funny it is that you have a game the next day, you have made a lineup, then you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, this guy is off the list. Because you have been thinking about it like, no, this game might be the reason I lose the game. So you can imagine, even in your sleep. So when I talk to people, it's like, actually, this game can lead us to this direction. You fall off the cliff. Because I have actually seen so many of my peers. Of course, I will not talk about them here, but very many of them, I have actually seen them actually. I remember I told you to put some of them on the invitation list. When I saw that, I was like, maybe next time you invite these people, because they actually fall off. And what happens is that when the cameras die down on the football, you are alone. And guess what? You're forgotten. Now, the most depressing thing is for a person who was a public person to be seated alone at your home from morning to evening, and nobody comes by to say hello or something like that. Yeah.
And your daughters are in the US, studying in the US.
Yes.
Your son is here, but also studying.
No, my son is here. My son is studying. He just finished P7.
P7.
Yes.
Okay. So do you live with your son?
No, I don't. No.
I'm asking this because in this space you need your people around.
Yeah.
So when they're not around.
Now you see when they're not around, you see, family sometimes is the backbone of everybody, and African societies have been helped that we have extended families a lot, and that is what has helped actually, which helps us in African societies, because you see, I can move to my auntie's home and chill there for 3 days, and nobody's going to ask me a question. Oh, who is this? What are you doing here? You see, I go to, because that is what maybe helps us in Africa. Because I've been to the US, and you find them, they don't have this extended family thing. They have father, son, mother, and that is it. If they're not there, you're stuck. That's why most of them end up in homes, old people's homes. As our parents actually live in their homes for the rest of their lives. So now that is what maybe helps, because you see, I have a cousin here. You know, the thing that whenever your phone, you don't call them, you know what?
They call you.
They'll call you.
Yeah.
A cousin will call you, like, where is this guy? I've not seen him in what? So you are there, your cousin sister comes, your brother comes, you meet your uncle. That is what maybe mitigates these situations where you find that, actually, the other guy is my uncle. So maybe you go there and see him, and those hours that you spend with them and chat with them are the hours that probably resuscitate you back into life, and you're like, okay, I can live another day.
And as we are talking, we are speaking football and life, maybe perhaps the other things that I was pleasantly surprised today. I thought you had stopped somewhere at a level of education, and then speaking to you, I found there's even another bigger one. I mean, you have a degree in economics, right?
No,
in
accounting. I did a Bachelor of Commerce accounting.
Accounting?
Yes.
And then
I'm a certified accountant, KCCA.
From the
UK. Yeah.
And then you have your master's from
Ugandan Management Institute. Yes.
And you just did your PhD.
Yes.
And 2 years, no one can employ you. That's in football. So I'm trying to make it make sense, because people who know you in football know Asaph, the coach, in the dugout.
Yes. And
then I'm looking at all these things. I'm like, Asaph is way much more, because even when you go to the academic world, I mean, it's I don't know in my team anyone has a PhD here. No, masters some people have, but that's something. Now, when you have all those things, and then you have these other things disturbing you mentally, I mean, you're too brilliant, you have too many books, you've done the books, and then that whole mess, and then trying to make sense of, okay, how can this all happen? This Asaph should be somewhere, maybe a CFO, a chief accounting officer.
That's true.
How is that not happening?
The thing is this, that you can't have your cake and eat it.
Okay.
I think football chose me. And when football chose me, I think I gave it everything. because you see, you're talking about academically, I should be somebody, but now I have all these things. I've attained all these things.
Degree, masters. What's the other one in the UK?
KCCA. That is the chartered accounting.
Then you have
PhD. Yes.
I mean, you're a doctor, kinda. So yes, just what if football is not giving back to you? Why not capitalize on your academics and
the thing is this that what has happened is that even time runs past.
Yeah.
You see, like the years I've spent in football, if I'd maybe gone into the academic world, to be different. But because I have spent all my time, because now if you say I spent 12 years with Maroons Football Club, and I don't think there's any coach in Uganda that has been at a football club for 12 years. I spent 12 years at Maroons Football Club. So, and I've been in Donduparaka, I've been in Yamitobora, I've been in Bright Stars. I've been Yes, I've been in Bright Stars, I've been in Mbale Heroes. So, I've spent so many years. So, it is in the football realm that I am somebody. You get it? It's a football realm that I'm somebody.
Yeah.
In the accounting world, I cannot be anybody because I have not practiced account since I left the Church of Uganda.
That was your first accounting job and the last.
Yes, it was my first accounting job and the last.
When Archbishop Nkoyoyo was still in charge.
Yes, it was still in charge.
Okay.
So that was the first and the last accounting job that I actually held.
Yeah.
Now, you can't go into the accounting world and say, because now I don't have a CV in the accounting world. Now, when it comes to in the academia, actually in public administration, because that's what I have done, a master's, PhD, public administration. Yes, that one you can start from somewhere. But again, you don't have the experience behind it that you've worked maybe in the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance. So you don't have a CV that backs that out. Now, when it comes to football, actually, my father makes these jokes and be like, my other siblings are known professionals and what, but
you have a doctor in there.
Yes, and my brother also, I think he was at he did I think BBA, something like that. But the thing is this, that I am more famous than all of them, even including him, the owner of the name, because he will be like, if you Google this guy. If you actually put the name,
even if without the junior,
it's still you see, because there'll be so many things written about you, so many videos written about you, and all that, all that stuff. So the thing that makes me a standard person is not anything else, because I was a prisons officer for the same time.
Exactly, that's what I wanted now to go into. You wear so many hats. This guy here is a prisons officer.
Yes, I'm a retired prisons officer, and I retired at the rank of principal officer.
Principal officer.
Yes. So, with all that, but what am I basically
known for?
Is football. So, if you come in the football realm, it's very difficult to talk about so many coaches, and I don't come up.
As a prisons officer, Asaph, I want you to relive this story for our viewers.
Yes.
So Stephen Kiprotich turns up in London in 2012 at the Olympics. You have no idea he's there.
Realistically, I had no idea, but I knew he was an athlete.
Okay.
Because I had trained, when we were training in a training school, I was in the same squad with him. Now, a squad in training is, let's say you are 500 in training. All the prison people that have come for training are 500, but they put you in small squads that are of 25 people. Now, in the squad that I was in, there was Stephen Kiprotich, who was an athlete, because the squad actually had basically sports people who had joined prison. So there would be footballers, netballers, everybody was in that squad if you were anybody. So Stephen Kiprotich was actually in my squad. If you see the pictures that I took with him, we are that close, like even in numbering in prisons, we are very, very close to each other. I knew the guy, but I didn't know him for what he would be. So we knew him, the guy is an athlete and what. So he's somewhere there. Now, during the Olympics, I'm doing my casual stuff, but of course, the Olympics are going on. My TV is on. And the Olympics are running. So I'm in the bedroom and my daughters are like, Daddy, come. Your friend is... I was like, my friend is doing what? Your friend is running. So I'm like, so I come, I look, because the pictures are small, so people are running. I was like, my friend is running. Then after some time, the name comes on, Stephen Kiprotich, and he's broken away from that.
The park.
From the park.
Yeah.
So I get interested, like, okay. But as the Ugandans, we are so used to failure. So we're like, these guys will even catch up with him. So in your mind, you're saying, okay, but I'm watching. But this guy is running away from them and he's keeping out. And he's keeping away from it. And guess what? The man crosses the finishing line. And I'm in shock because you see, I know this guy. I know him very well. And he has just crossed the line.
Won the first gold for Uganda in 40 years.
Yes. And like I told you, it's one of those chilling moments in my life where I was frozen. I'm like, what is going on? I told you the first one was in 1996. I was in India doing in university. And a certain Davis Kamoga was second to Johnson.
Yeah. He won bronze, actually. Bronze at Atlanta, 400 meters.
Yes. Yeah. So, and guess what? The Ugandan flag is being raised. And the students are telling, because they knew you are Ugandan, and they didn't even know, because you say people in India don't know where Uganda is. They only think of cricket, in terms of cricket.
India is where you did your first degree.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they are telling you, you know what? There's a Ugandan who has just won a what?
A medal.
A medal. And I'm like, a medal? Uganda, how does Uganda win a medal? Because that time we were not used to winning medals. So I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, Kamoga, he's a Ugandan, really? So they raised the Ugandan flag. So I remember the joke was India didn't have a medal in those in those Olympics. So it comes back to 2012. Now, 2012 was even different. The Ugandan national anthem was actually played. Because I remember as a prisons officer, you've just been in training. You stand still, but it's instinct. It's not like you did it. The flag is being raised. You stand up straight, and guess what? This guy is what?
What was the reaction at Luzira in prison?
It was like everybody was watching. So you had everybody scream as soon as he crossed the line. The whole place was like, yeah. So you're like, okay, wait a minute. What has just happened? Like, actually, what had just happened was historical. Because in 1972, most of the people were not there. Yeah. We didn't see this thing.
When Akibua won it.
Yeah. So now we were living history in time and see this guy. And most importantly, that we know the guy. We know the guy who wins, because I remember we even went to Entebbe International Airport to welcome the prisons group in uniform, the band, everything went Entebbe. Then we ended up at the president's house, State House here, where we had a dinner or something like that. And it was beautiful.
Wow. And your daughter?
No, my daughter, my daughter goes to school. She was going to a school here called Train Up a Child in Bugolowi. Yeah. So she told her friends at school that the world, the Olympic champion lives next to us. Yeah. So I think they didn't believe her. So she comes home and is like, Daddy, I need to go and visit that guy. So I'm like, what's up? I need to prove to these guys that I know this guy. So I'm like I didn't see the whole logic, but later on I'm thinking, okay, so you told them that this guy lives next to me. So I was like, okay, let me take you to the what. So we walked. It was just a walkable distance, just about like 200 meters. The houses were. So we go to the guy's place, and my daughter sits on the lap.
Kiprotich.
Kiprotich. And so I take a picture of her. So it has been like with her all the time, like the guy carrying me is the Olympic champion. Yes. Of course, now my daughter is now bigger, because at that time she was in primary school. Right now, she's, I think, she's 20 years. She turned 20 this year. So you can imagine that time.
What a story.
She will tell the whole world, this is the Olympic champion. I'm sitting on his laps.
You did coach under 17 national team.
I was appointed. Now that's a story. I was appointed, and I think one of the coaches that was appointed, I never coached a single game. I was fired before coaching before coaching the game. Okay. Yeah. So I think that was 2012. I am appointed the coach of the national team under 17. And that was the time when I think there was this Uganda Super League versus the Federation and all that stuff.
When we had 2 leagues,
Yeah,
2012,
20 leagues, 2012. Of course, that story, I think you covered it the most.
Yeah.
But the thing is this, that even up to now, I still believe it's the right decisions, that all the decisions I made, I always make a decision that I never regret. Like, even if you think I'm wrong, but you see, time exonerates us, and that's the beauty of it. Time has exonerated us to actually believe that what we did and said at that time was the right thing, because it has come back again full circle. Just this year, at the beginning of this year, there was also another standoff.
Yeah,
you saw it.
The league format
and the clubs and what. But it's the same thing. What happened in 2012 is what led to what was happening just a few months ago. So in 2012 I think I'm the only coach who wasn't coached the thing is this, that I got an appointment letter, which is funny that most people don't get appointment letters. And I know many people who have coached the national teams without, but me, I have one. I have an appointment letter. I was appointed, and after being appointed, I didn't coach a single game, and I was actually fired. You remember, famously, they had some
exam, the paper.
Yeah, there was an exam where they said
that you failed.
That I failed. So, but I said, okay. I remember that time I was telling them, you see, for me in the academic world, failing is normal. You get it, eh? You actually fail papers, take retakes and what, it's normal. But what didn't make it normal is when somebody goes to the press and calls a press conference and tells them, by the way, this man failed a paper. So I find it funny, because even if you put in whenever you put in my name in Google, and most people have seen it, that one of the things you see is an article saying that I've been fired because I failed what? An exam. So that has been my life anyway. The strange things that can happen when you become very vocal, or when you are saying, this is the line, I can't cross this line. This is the red line, I can't cross it. But because I am sure the only reason why that person said that in a press conference was to sort of tell the world, like, you see, this guy is even a failure. This one who is saying this is a failure. And unfortunately, the man is now in politics. But yeah, but that was my time. Yeah.
Do you still have a future in coaching?
The thing is this, that with time, like when time runs down, you see, the thing about coaching and teaching, you never stop being one. You never stop being one. Is that you're always what you are. Because I am a football certified coach, I know how to coach football, and it's not something that you need to tell me that I am. I am. So now, maybe, who knows, the opportunities will come up, maybe I'll coach. But if they don't come up, and I've told most people, so be it. I don't have to coach the rest of my life. Yeah.
Are you frustrated or disappointed that you've never coached the club that you love, KCCA?
No, the thing is this, that, that's one of the biggest disappointments, is that the reason that I actually went coaching football is because of this football club.
Yeah.
It's what introduced me to football. It's what I've been, and I am very disappointed that actually I almost was going to coach this football club until one gentleman that, they tell us in the Bible, because I'm a Christian and I'm a believer, to forgive people. But there are some things that you find difficult to forgive when somebody denies you an opportunity, which I think that I deserved. But most importantly, I told this gentleman, that is my football club. You see, that is my football club. That is my dream. But the same gentleman told me, no. And yet, the opportunity was up. So it's a very big disappointment, of course. But nevertheless, you see, life goes on. Yeah, but
and course, it could still happen.
I don't think with time, the way football trends are going, you see, like, because there was a time I was the best. And you see, when you say that, people say, oh, this guy is very vain. You know, in Uganda, if I tell you I'm the best, they'll be like, oh, this guy is very, he's full of himself. You know what? But you see, the thing is that one thing that my mother is actually who always said this, and my sister, And they always say, but you know what? You are the best, because if you could beat these guys at their own game, because you see, some of these guys played. I've coached with the greatest players. I've been on the same touchline with people you call the greatest players in Uganda. All of them, I have. And I have come out, doing very well. So it's like Mesa always tells me, if you think you're the best, say it. Who will blow your trumpet? Nobody is going to, to blow your trumpet for you. But so, at one time, I thought I was the best coach in Uganda.
And you believed it?
I did believe it, because you see, the thing is this, that...
Which time is that?
From 2011 to 2018, I thought I was the best. Because you see, why did I think so? Is that I was doing things that most people cannot do. How? I coach clubs that most people can't coach.
Especially those with extremely limited
resources. For example, I coached Maroons to the pinnacle, because you see, if you get a club that is at the bottom of Ugandan football, pick them up and bring them to the Premier League. And not only bring them to the Premier League, contest football matches. And I think there was a time when it was believed Maroons was playing one of the best football in the country.
Yeah.
Yes. You see. So, and then not only that, producing players, not just because I didn't buy players. In my whole 12 years at Maroons, I didn't buy a single footballer.
You were making them.
Yes. I used to go look for them, coach them, bring them, youth team and all that. And I sustained the league, them in the league. So I brought them to the table. So everybody from actually that 12 years is what made me to stand up and everybody notice, to do things that ordinarily that were difficult. Now, of course, taking over jobs that are difficult, I went to Mbale Heroes, which had just come from the regional league. You can imagine a team coming to the regional league and it's in the big league. And their ask of me was, can you keep us?
Just keep us
in this league so that we don't fall back.
Yeah.
And why didn't they want to fall back? Because they had beef with a certain team called Kataka, which had been in the big league for, I think, since its establishment. So for them, they're ever there. So Heroes was in the regional league, they're in the big league. So these guys looked bigger than them all the time. So when Heroes comes, they say, but you know what? Let us stay in this league so that these guys don't laugh at us that we came one season and went back. Yeah. And you know what I did? I took them to the Premier League.
You helped them escape going up.
Now you see, instead of going down, we left Kataka in the big league, and you'll see some pictures that probably I'll share with you sometime, where they were writing on their back of shirts, "Bye-bye, Kataka." So those are the kind of scenarios like where you do something that in another world, because I was telling a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, like in another world, I would be adored by this group of people. You get them from this point. They wanted to stay here, but you actually bring them to this point. So I go to Bright Stars because I think one of the things that I've done is that with Bright Stars, I think I did a lot with that football club. I think I went there in a season where they were previously almost flirting with relegation. Yeah. So I brought them to the top 8 of the league, and that same year I played in the semi-finals of the Uganda Cup. I was defeated by the eventual champions, Vipers. So, and I think I had pushed that to another level. But all the time that all these clubs, I introduce players that were not known to the football realm. So when I come and tell somebody, I think I was the best in this thing. So somebody will, you see, like our society goes, that if you say it, then you see that guy is very full of himself and what. Yeah. And you see, our society needs to be the ones to tell you. The society needs to be the one to tell you that you're good. If they don't say it, that means you're not good enough. But you see, the thing is this, that I think I have achieved a lot in the game, and I love the game but I succeed. The thing is that, Andrew, for me, everything that I do, I want to be the best. I just want to be the best. Like, for example, in school, I push myself to school. I was like, you know what? I can always do this. I can do this. I can do this. I can become this. when I went, so you see, everywhere I go, I try to always do the very best. That is why even sometimes people will see me and like, oh, but this guy is over on TV. It's because I am still talking about football. People would have seen me on their screens or doing this, but why? Because when I go there, I try to make sure that I make an impact. And not just make an impact. I do something to the very best of it. Yeah.
So I think without even asking, Mike Mutebi is your greatest coach.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Of course, I have about, Coach Mike Mutebi, because of what he has made me become. And most people even will try to say that maybe I even, the exuberance and sometimes of doing things, I almost do it just like him. But it's because I adore this man for what. But the other person is the late Otti. David Otti.
Yeah.
Now, for him, it was different because he actually, Semogere George is the person who will make you laugh about it. Because Semogere George was playing football. Actually, at one time, I was sitting on their bench because of Jojo T, and they were playing. And they were looking at me and like, what is this small boy doing here? Because Jojo T one time, he told me that Jangu Mwanagwe. He didn't speak Luganda so well, but he would say Jangu, Tulao, Kakati, Tunuli Abantu Yoko. This was during a game. Express was actually playing a league match. And I was sitting on their bench because I wanted to coach, but I didn't know where to start. He was the first person to tell me, you know what? The only way you can coach is come and see how it is what? It is done. You must see it first before you even think about it. So he called me, David, and told me, come and see. I met him in, he used to come to the Naguru area, where he used to meet with the Loniens, Coach Loniens, I think. Angelo Loniens.
Yeah.
Nasul, who is, I think, apparently has been sick a bit. So those are the people. So I met him in that kind of society. That's when he said, you want to coach football? Like, yes. Hey, you come and see. So he had an influence on me a lot. But when I met Mike, it went to another level, which is, I think, obsession. Because with Coach Mike, it is 100% or nothing at all. It's 100% with him or nothing at all. He's the first person. At first, I used to think that this is crazy. Why would a person wake up in the morning at 6 and he wants me to be at the field at 6? And by 6, we are still there.
The whole day.
The whole day. And at first, the first time I met him, I was like, this is... But after that, it has also become an obsession. Like for me, when I want to work, I'm working football 24/7. So Mike, without a doubt, he's the person that, like you hone your skill on him, and you're like, I want to be like this guy. But there was also David Otti, who also had an influence.
Another impact.
Another impact. Actually, before Mike, it was Otti, because for him, he allowed me to go to Express and see how this game is coached, because he actually believed that the only way you can coach football is by seeing it. Yes.
Okay. As we went up, Asaph, what's the current state of Ugandan football? How would you term it?
I think is that there's, regression. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of regression. Why? Because one, I would give you an example. Just a few days ago, Express was playing against Villa in Nachivo Stadium. And the stadium was quite almost empty. And I think it signaled to me the state of Ugandan football. Because you see, I have watched that particular game in years back. That particular game was the epitome of Ugandan football. Nobody would go to sleep if the game was being played the next day. Everybody would be sleeping and waking up and like, oh my God, we have to watch this game tomorrow. I remember there was one game that was being played in Nakivu, and by 11 in the morning, we were seated in the stadium. I remember that game actually ended up being aborting, and the next day it was 2 days later, it was transferred to Mbale Stadium. I remember the game ended prematurely in Nakivu Stadium. Express put their players in because Express was losing. So what Express did, they put their players in an ambulance and drove them off, claiming that the tear gas, No, that
tear gas.
the tear gas had sort of affected them. So, and even their coach, I remember, also enters. Now, the Express has only 6 players in the field, so the game can't
continue
the rules. Yeah, by the rules. So, 2 days later, we were at Mbale, and I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to this game anymore. I've had enough of this. But I remember we were at work. I think a certain friend of mine called Agre Ashaba, who was one time KCCA, that he's like, you know what?
Let's go.
We must go and witness. So by again midday, we were again
at
Mbale, and the stadium. You know, Mbale is about 40,000. It was full to capacity to watch that replay of those two teams playing. Now, if you come back 2 days ago and you see Express,
I'm not sure anyone here knows those teams played 2 days ago.
yeah. They played in Akivubo, and it's like quiet. Nothing is going on. It's like it's a normal training session, and that's what epitomizes Ugandan football. Because how could these two teams, the biggest teams in Ugandan football, be playing and nothing is happening? So I think there's a lot of regression, and we must find a way in because I was speaking to a certain friend of mine who is a journalist, and I speak to him all the time, Vianney Nsimbe, and I was telling him, because Vianney supports, is a Villa supporter, and we were talking about the same thing, and we are saying that in every footballing culture, there's for football to stay alive, there are some teams that can't die. If they die, the game dies with them. For example, you see in Germany, Bayern Munich is the epitome of German football. So for German football to be alive, Bayern has to be alive. Dortmund has to be alive. If you go to England, Manchester United is facing very difficult times, but they have to be alive for that game to actually, because I follow statistics a lot. You see, they are not performing well, but it's
they're one of the
they're the most watched team in the world. You know,
and the fourth wealthiest.
Yes. Yeah. So it's the same thing. Express Football Club. One time, because they called them Mkwano Gwabanji, they were the biggest followed team in Uganda. But if you go to a football match and there are only a handful, because I don't think even 100 fans of Express were in that stadium.
Wow.
So now, that is where our game is. So we must find a way. Actually, find reasons as to why. Why is it? Because as I was talking to Vianney, actually we were saying that, you see, Uganda football is almost going to, because has Express gotten new fans since then?
I doubt.
Exactly. So that's where the game, because
you get fans when you put in some spell of winning. So Vipers,
even organization, you see, you might not win anything, but the organization of football club, because I support Arsenal Football Club, they have not won anything in 22 years.
But they have new fans.
Every year they have new fans. Why? Because they are in your face, they are organizing, they're doing everything possible to attract you to support them. And that is football. So if Express is not having new fans, I think if you give them the next 5 years, they could easily be extinct. Because the people who support Express are all my father's age mate. Did they get new fans? I don't think so. Who?
The players.
No, even the players who go there to work, not to support the club.
Well, Asaph, it's been, I mean, we can talk sports forever. We have a final segment where you literally get to share your peace of mind for the rest of the world, things they can learn from you. But before that, I want to give you an opportunity to say anything at heart that you feel we must have talked about, but we haven't.
Okay. That is it. The thing is this, we have talked about it, I think, in so many words or something, is the passion. The passion. Like, you see, most of the sports people like me, I think one of the reasons that has brought us to this level is we are paid by passion. And you see, I can relate it with you because I've been with you interviewing me so many times in football, because your interest in us has been the passion. So me, I think that the most important thing that we have attained in football is the passion that we have for the game. And this passion is what has led us to be known to the entire world. Because without this game, nobody knows me. And I've told so many people, my friends, and like, you see, I have done academics. I have been a prisons officer. I'm everything that you'd want to be. But do you know me for these other things? No, you don't. You know me because
of the game.
Of the game.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's this passion that has made me meet people like I would never have met in my life. Football has made me meet people that I don't think I would ever have met. You know, because I have met very many people. For example, I have three famous pictures that I have. One of them is with the Lord Mayor of Kampala, who is the patron of the football club that I support. But it's not every day that you will meet the Lord Mayor. Now, what surprises me that he actually knew who I was. Now, that is the thing that I took a picture with him and he's like, Asaph, how are you? I'm like, because I take him a picture just because he's the Lord Mayor. But when he calls my name, I'm like, okay, this man knows me as a person. So I am impressed. Then the other things that
the other one that you met?
I met...
Please, before you say him,
yes.
Allow me to just bring him in. Tell him so that...
Oh, yes. Yes. I met him. I always followed him.
Yeah.
And he's one person that I would proudly say that we share the same belief. Maybe not politically, but the way he attributes things, like he's the fire that he believes in doing things. Like if something is right, he will say it for what it is. That is me. Now, when I met him, Dr. Kiza Besigye, I was coming from a show on NBS TV, a morning show. And he was walking in to have another morning show. I think it was about politics. And everybody was like, oh, he's coming in, he's coming in. You know, everybody's trying to give way. Now, I'm wondering, actually, at one point, I was like, who is this that is coming in that people are trying to... So I see him walking in and I'm like, wait a minute. I am not going to let this moment, this moment pass. So I walked him quickly and I was like, you know what? I want to take a picture with you. I want to take a picture with you. He's like, oh, no problem. Then we actually take a picture and I have what? A picture of that. Now, the other one, I think I was in India. There was a certain cricket player called
Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah, Sachin Tendulkar.
The goats.
Yeah. Now, because they were playing, I think, in Jaipur. There's a stadium in Jaipur, and I'd gone there to visit friends, and they were like, let's go and watch a cricket game. And I was like, okay, let's go and watch a cricket. So they play cricket. Yes, I knew a few things about cricket because I had gone to entire school and we had played cricket. Then after that, I asked them, the Indian friends, and I'm like, how do I get to meet this guy? They're like, no, that's not possible. They cannot allow you to meet him. But one of them told me, you're African. Actually go past those guys. They'll actually not...
They'll not touch you.
They'll not touch you. You're African, you're not Indian. So they will even be surprised. So the guys, I'm like, are you sure? Like, yeah. So I move. I walk. So the security. So these guys are asking me, because you see in India, people don't know these countries. Everybody thinks you're either from West Indies, because they actually don't know that there's African continent. For them, they think either you're from South Africa, because that's a cricket playing nation, or you're from West Indies. So when they see you, they think that, oh, this guy must be from West Indies. Oh, he's a cricketer. That's what those guys are like. You walk to them. So I walk to them and like, can I talk to him? So the guy is like, you know him? So this guy the security asked me if I know him, because they actually maybe think he makes game.
They think you're a cricketer from West Indies.
So I get there, but unfortunately at that time, we didn't have these smartphones. So the only picture that I got was a newspaper clipping, because because he stood and took a picture with me. Then he was also asking me, where are you from? So I told him Uganda. He's like, where is that? So even him in his mind, he thought I was probably a cricketer. So those are 3 people that I've actually met that that really had an impact in the lives that
interesting. Those 3 people, at least to share. The other good thing about this one, he is a Man United fan.
Okay, if
I don't do Paraka, okay.
No, if actually I knew he was Man United fan, I would have taunted him like, man, you guy, I don't like you. Of course, the parting shot. One of the things before I leave this, he's a Man United fan. There are 2 teams that I actually don't like. But you see, the thing is this, that I was even talking to Vianney, my friend, is like, the reason why we live is to make sure that our opponents suffer.
Yeah.
You know, like, for example, I don't want Villa to be extinct. I want them to suffer until
witness them suffer.
I love that. Yeah. It's the same thing with Manchester United. I don't want them, because others like, let them. No, I was like, no. I don't want them to be relegated. I want them to stay there and suffer the brunt.
We are still eating off the good things of the man himself.
There.
Yeah. Asaph, wow, this has been amazing. I mean, we can talk forever. Thank you so much for gracing the show. But before we leave, we have something called Pass the Torch. And Pass the Torch is where you get to give advice or leave a word of wisdom to anyone. The good thing, our previous guest because is your friend, played for KCCA.
Yeah, when you miss KCCA, the smile comes on my face.
But anyway, they talked about doing things 100% when you're doing them, and fortunately, you talked about it with Mike Mutebi. But as you leave, what word do you want the viewers of the Game of Life to leave this place knowing, oh, as I've said this, I think I did it, I think I connect. So what's that word that you want to leave for the viewers?
Yeah, the thing that I want to leave for the viewers is that I will take it from another person that mentored me in Uganda Prison Services, and that was the chairman of Maroons Football Club. Then he passed away, called me Sachin. He actually famously told me that, you know what, do your very best so that people after you will always refer to you. Like, do your very best. Like, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about you, but for you, do you believe that what you did was the best that you could have done? And so that after you, they would always refer to you and say, no, when this person was here, this is what he did. So usually that is what I want to leave to people. Do your very best so that your very best, meaning that what you believe in, and you believe it's the very best that you could do, so that the people after you will always refer to you, because they always do. Somehow, funny enough, is that when you do what is right in your conscious and heart, time absolves you, and they'll refer back to you and say, wait a minute, when this man was here, he said this, he did this. So that's what I want the viewers of this sort. Do your very best so that even after you, people will refer to you. Because what if you do something in the right sense and the manner, nobody will forget it. Even when they don't believe in you at that time, they will actually be the ones to say it after you've gone.
Wow. Asaph Mwebaze Jr., thank you so much, my brother, for making it. It's been a pleasure to have you. Yeah,
it's also been it's a pleasure always to actually talk to you, Andrew, because not very many people speak the spot in the way you actually do it. Or the way you write it, actually. You actually write it better
than speak it.
Yeah, when you actually write it, you know, like there are people who write stories like you, and you actually visualize the story even more than, for example, you go to watch a game and writes about the game, and you actually read the story sounds better than what you actually saw. so it's nice to always.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for your kind words.
Yeah,
and. I wish you the very best. Let 2016 be better than all the previous years for you.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Andrew.
And the team as well says thank you. We'll meet again. This is just the beginning. Yeah, the game of life continues.
The game of life, of course, will continue. Will always continue. The life still, it rolls on for years and years. Even after we have gone, it actually rolls on. because you see what you've done right now is that you have put me on the spotlight. 20 years from now, somebody will watch this thing. Even 30 years after, you'll be like, oh, okay, that was the guy.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you.